Yes, sir. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Indonesia Study Group. For those who attend online and to in person, and to our friends who attend online, this is the first Indonesia Study Group of the year. We have a full line up until May, almost for the whole semester. My name is Firman Witular. I'm with the INU Indonesia project. I would like to start by acknowledging and celebrating the first Australians on whose traditional lands we meet and pay our respect to the elders of past and present. So today, we're going to have Dr. Sudirman Nasir, as a speaker for the ISG. And I would like to introduce Dr. Nasir. He's Sudi, we call him Sudi, is a senior public health lecturer at Hasanuddin University, Unhas, whose research and teaching interests lie at the intersection of biomedical and social determinants of health and the interconnection of health and social development. Sudi is here as an Indonesia project visiting fellow. He will be on ANU campus. He's been here since February the 3rd and will be here until March the 2nd, and offering a unique opportunity to engage with him and to discuss your research, on public health. The format of this talk is usually we're going to have a speaker speak for 45 minutes. And everyone is welcome to ask clarification question. But if you have longer question, deeper question, please wait until the end of the talk. We're going to have another 45 minutes for Q&A. And I will take questions from both in-person audience as well as online. Okay, without further ado, Sudi, please.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Firman Witular, for introducing and facilitating my visiting fellowship to ANU Indonesia project, as well as to other colleagues in the project, Pak Arianto, Pak Budi, and all audience. I feel very honored to be invited and also to be accompanied in this highly valuable academic opportunity to discuss and to engage with colleagues at this university. This afternoon, I would like to present and discuss some findings and some studies related to climate health and climate crisis and health in one particular area in Indonesia, named Wallacea region. I'm sure many of us are familiar with Wallacea region, but I would like to refresh our knowledge or our insights about the region during the presentation. So the outline of this presentation is to provide brief overview about the intersection between climate change or climate crisis with health, some of the usefulness of the intersectional framework, but also some limitations that require further studies and further discussion, particularly interdisciplinary discussion, because this topic is for sure a complex issues. Climate crisis itself is a complex issue. Health, of course, is also a complex issue, and the intersection of both domain is highly complex. There are many areas that we don't know yet, But for sure, this is a pressing issue that affect people's life in many parts of the world, including Indonesia and Wallacea region. And after that, as I have mentioned, to reintroduce the region and why this region is important in the study of the interplay between climate crisis and health and well-being. And after that, I would like to briefly provide some background and some key findings from several studies that I'm involved in this region, and also to share some lesson learned that we as a team and also as individual obtain from those studies. And I will close the presentation with some reflection about the way forward, especially in strengthening collaboration between disciplines and also between institutions, including between Australian National University and universities in Wallacea region. Yeah, I would like to begin this discussion by emphasizing one powerful statement from the director of World Health Organization 2 years ago in COP Dubai, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, and he said succinctly but vividly that the climate crisis is a health crisis, but for too long, health has been mostly viewed as a footnote in climate discussion. So in most cases, climate crisis is seen as environmental or economic issues, even though from daily experience and now increasingly also academic, biomedical, and also public health and social science evidence show the significant impact of climate crisis to environmental health, but also to human health. But the mechanism between the intersection of the two domains is highly complex. And as I have mentioned, there are many terra incognito. There are many areas that we don't know yet and are worthy for further exploration or examination. And the photo that I display here is a photo taken by a young person, one of our study team in Central Sulawesi in Donggala, in a photo voice project, and he took a picture about the village, the neighborhood that he lived, that was affected by flood in 2022 and 2023. This area was also affected by the tsunami in Central Sulawesi in 2018. So this Central Sulawesi area is particularly unique because this is the area in which endogenic tectonic disaster took place recently, 6 years ago, and there are still many trauma related to the tsunami and liquefaction in 2018. But after that, there are many initiatives in the province try to strengthen the local resources, local institutions, and local community to tackle both endogenic tectonic disasters as well as climate-induced disasters. So until very recently, climate crisis and health frequently viewed as a separate domain. But at least in the last 5 years, there are many initiatives try to bridge the two areas, including one special edition in the Lancet journal that facilitate a special edition on the intersection of climate crisis and health, and invited prominent researchers working in the area to share their insights. And as commonly found, most of these studies took place or led by European or American, including Australian-based institutions. So also in the last like 5 or 7 years, the involvement of Indonesian universities and Indonesian academia, Indonesian institution in this intersectional study also start to increase. That's the bright side of the topic. And in the last COP, in the recent Dubai COP, there was the time in which many important institutions and health authorities were facilitated to engage in discussion with traditional participants of the COP, mostly environmental scientists or climate scientists, climate institutions, as well as including economists, measuring or assessing the economic impact of the climate disasters. But in more practical ways, in the global south, the collaboration between climate and health institutions or climate and health professionals are still mostly sporadic, including in Indonesia. And the role of this intersectional, interdisciplinary study to facilitate closer communication between climate, disaster, and health agencies is important. Yeah, I would like to refresh or to facilitate some framework, and this is among the most recognizable framework. Try to explain the intersection between climate crisis and health. And of course, this framework is highly useful to see the overarching and to see the wide, complex impacts of climate crisis to various health issues. In the core, of course, there are some pressing climate crisis issues such as the rising temperature, extreme weather, and rising sea levels, as well as the rising of CO2 level. And these processes in a complex way facilitate or exacerbate some intermediary area that will worsen human health and also environmental health. We can see, for example, the most obvious for people on the ground is this climate crisis impact to water and food supply and quality. And once these very basic needs are disturbed, the consequence to various human health are obvious. But the more subtle ways can be seen through other issues, such as increasing allergens because of the significant and rapid changes in the environment that increase the spread of allergens. And of course, this also will directly or indirectly affect some health issues. And the changing in factor ecology, particularly insect related factor that can be associated with some infectious diseases. And in Indonesian context, malaria and dengue perhaps are the most common and recognizable one, but not limited to malaria and dengue. Those not very familiar ones such as encephalitis, hantavirus, Rift Valley fever, or chikungunya are also among examples of this changing factor ecology. And air pollution is perhaps more clear, the relationship, particularly to some issues related to respiratory and also cardiovascular diseases. And the most obvious one, of course, also injuries, because injuries, particularly physical injuries, are the most common one affected people during disasters such as flood or landslide, for example. Extreme heat is also an important if we observe news and also data from climate institution in the last 3 years in Indonesia, for example, we experienced this significant rise of heat affecting many cities in Indonesia, including Makassar, in which I live. 2 years ago, this significant increase in heat was also accompanied with water scarcity that affect electricity. Every day during October and November in 2003, we have 4 hours regular electricity blackout in Makassar, and we can imagine the impact to people, particularly to several groups such as children, pregnant women, or the elderly. And also environmental degradation that force many climate-related migration, as well as mental health impacts. Mental health impacts in this framework is positioned only in one chamber, even though, of course, actually mental health aspects are attached to all issues. And in most studies, the mental, besides injuries, actually symptoms related to mental health are the most common signs that mentioned by the local people in relation to the impact of climate disasters, either flood or drought or heat. And malnutrition or infection in digestive system, of course, are important area. After the flood, usually diarrheal and other digestive related infections significantly increase. This framework, as I have mentioned, are very important to better understand the complex interplay between environment, climate disasters, climate crisis, and human health. But of course, as a framework, there are many limitations, especially when we link it to the life of people directly or indirectly affected by various climate-related disasters. Yeah. Some, including in the Lancet's special edition on the interplay between climate crisis and human health, there are several issues that are considered missing or not very clearly explained or feasible in the framework. One very important aspect of health that are mostly neglected or cannot be feasible easily through the framework is health inequality. Yeah, as we all experience health or health risks affect people in many different ways. Some people are more susceptible, some people are more resilient. And of course, the level of vulnerability and the level of resilience are influenced by many non-biomedical factors. And also, one thing missing in the framework is the human face and the importance of the local context. Flood happen everywhere in many parts of the world, but the impact of flood and the way people cope to the consequences of flood are differing and highly influenced by the local situation or local circumstances. Even within one province, for example, in Indonesia, in South Sulawesi or in Central Sulawesi or in East Nusa Tenggara, these disasters are highly influenced by local institutions, local contexts, and the way we try to mitigate the disasters is also very significantly be shaped by the capacity of the local institutions. Another example of floods from East Nusa Tenggara province. And usually the climate onset disasters differing from the dramatic tectonic disasters is the lack or the more sporadic assistance, either from international or national or local government, because it is not as dramatic as tsunami or liquefaction, for example. So this does usually do not attract a massive assistance as what we saw, for example, during the Aceh tsunami or the recent Palu and Donggala tsunami. So yeah, as I have mentioned in the opening of presentation, Indonesia as a whole are prone to natural disasters. But this particular area in the red, the so-called Wallacea region, are unique because of geological factors, geographical, and also cultural factors. The region name due to the contribution of this British explorer and zoologist, considered as the father of tropical zoology, Alfred Russel Wallace, who through his exploration in the late 19th century and early 20th century start to recognize the sharp differences in terms of species between western part of the archipelago, central part, and the eastern part of the archipelago. We saw this, for example, some part of Kalimantan and Java, and also very obviously Papua. But these Sulawesi, Molucas Islands, East Nusa Tenggara are unique in terms of geological and geographical one. One of the most important one is the long isolation. Never been part of the mainland Asia or Australian continent. As a result, there is a numerous endemic species in this region, and there are many deep sea, among the deepest sea in this region, including, for example, the Banda Sea. That's why it is called as a biogeographical region. And through his exploration, Wallace's exploration in this region, he started to identify one missing link in evolution. And from Makassar and then to Ternate, he composed his study and then wrote the famous letter from Ternate to Charles Darwin, and convinced Darwin to establish the theory of evolution and biogeography. Even though for a long time, these monumental theories mostly attached only to Darwin. Only in the last few decades, the role of Wallace is increasingly recognized. So as I have mentioned, Sulawesi, Lombok, Sumbawa, Flores, Sumba, Timor, Halmahera, Buru, and Seram, those are the large islands in the region, but there are actually many other smaller islands in the region with this characteristic. It is a hotspot of rich and unique biodiversity, both on land and in the sea. So it is very important as environmental biological laboratory. And there are still many species that we actually don't know or do not document in these regions. Cultural, ethnic, and genetic diversity is also very rich here. And as we all know, it is located in the central part of the geotectonical ring of fire. And the more recent development that should be mentioned is the increasing penetration of extractive economy, including mining and plantation, that significantly also disturb and intersect with the climate crisis. And among those studying economics, and I know there are many researchers here who are more familiar than me about the regional inequality in the level of development in Indonesia, the lack of development in Eastern Indonesia, including in this Wallacea region. So I have mentioned in the last at least 5 or 7 years, the increasing demand and also number of institutions and researchers, both in academia and outside academia, working in several studies to explore the intersection of climate crisis and health, including several studies in this region. I myself is engaged in several studies, and I would like to share briefly some background and some findings from these 3 studies. One of them is a study supported by Australian DFAT through Koneksi program. It is building a model of future-proofing climate resilience by engaging community in Eastern Indonesia. And actually another Koneksi study that I'm engaged related to loss and damage issue, but the study sites are outside Wallacea region. It is in Jakarta and in Central Java, so I do not include this particular study in this presentation. Another study that I coordinated is an IPAS Indonesia and IPAS North Carolina on a more specific health issue in its interplay with climate crisis. It is the intersection of climate crisis and sexual reproductive health in 2 districts in Central Sulawesi, and one study at the preparational stage at the moment. It is also an Australian Indonesian partnership study under Partnership for Australia-Indonesia Research, focusing on Sulawesi, trying to better understand climate change and health and in 6 provinces in Sulawesi. Yeah, I would like to briefly provide background and key findings from this Koneksi DFAT funded project. As I have mentioned, took place in 3 provinces, South Sulawesi, West Nusa Tenggara, and East Nusa Tenggara in 2023-2024. And it is an exploratory study to examine both vulnerability and resilience, particularly coping mechanisms of 3 particular marginalized groups: women, people living with disability, and the elderly. Their individual and also communal responses in navigating or mitigating the impact of climate crisis and disasters in their daily life. It is an exploratory study, so most component of the study at the first phase is a qualitative study to try to better understand the people's perception and experience in dealing with various climate disasters in 3 localities. So focus group discussions with these 3 groups, and then followed by semi-structured interviews, inviting representatives from the 3 groups, and also complemented with observations to the chosen localities, the chosen place in which these 3 groups live and work. Some important findings from this particular study is the fact that there are, in each location, there are groups that are actually part of the 3 vulnerable characteristics. For example, women living with disability and already above 65 years old. They are part of the community, and they experience what the so-called cluster of disadvantage. or a cluster of vulnerability. And when disaster happen, they are the one who are mostly neglected and who are having less capabilities to save themselves or to survive or to recover after the disasters. And their vulnerability also affected not just by their disability, but also by their age, and also their gender or their sex. Yeah, the clustering of disadvantages is an important issue that emerged from this particular study. And usually these people with the combination of disadvantages are also those people who have less voice to convey their need and their aspiration, especially to local authorities to access, for example, immediate aid during the disaster and aftermath of the disasters. And as I have mentioned previously, even though in the current framework, mental health is only positioned in the one particular corner of the framework, if we interact with people, especially more vulnerable people experiencing disasters, it is the symptoms related to mental health that appear more promptly compared to physical symptoms. And in Indonesia, we still have this familiar neglect toward the importance of mental health issues. Yeah, despite their vulnerability, we also need to see the people living in the affected area not merely as a passive agent. Many of them amidst their socioeconomic limitations try to adapt, try to survive, and show individual and community resilience. This is an example of a more long-term resilience shown in one particular village in a low-income area in Makassar. It is now widely reported by the media. An example of the most consistent community response to aberration and also tidal wave, in which community work together for mangrove restorations. The name of the village in Makassar is Lantebung. And because of these local initiatives, the cooperation between people from many different age, young people, including more influential older people in the community, men and women in this community, in the last 5 years, the progress of this mangrove rehabilitation in Lantebung is consistent. And unlike other projects, which is only survive 1 or 2 years and then do not continue. This Lantebung is another example of resilience, both at personal and community level, and the importance of social capital. There are many local champions work to initiate and also to safeguard this initiative. That's one of the most important factor that enable this local initiative to sustain. Yeah. And another example here from Lombok in the farming community. How climate crisis, especially water crisis, affect local community, including women, and also how local community try to find local solution in trying to mitigate the impact of water insecurity. So one of the most important key findings that we found from this study is the need not just to strengthen climate responses, but also to bridge climate institution and social and health institution to provide concerted responses covering both climate, health, and economic responses. So the role of this interdisciplinary study to facilitate more collaboration between local agencies working in different areas is important. In those areas who experience some interdisciplinary research, especially the mid-level of officers in many government offices, for example, Dinas Kesehatan and Badan Penanggulangan Bencana, or disaster mitigation agencies or climate agencies, start to work together and to know each other. And another study that I will briefly introduce is the study in Central Sulawesi that focus more specifically to one particular health issue. It is the interplay between climate crisis and sexual reproductive rights. IPAS Indonesia and IPAS North Carolina, who supported this study in collaboration with Hasanuddin University, focusing their work in this particular health issue. It is also an exploratory study, and this study become a basis for the current development of a quantitative baseline study that we will use for the implementation, the initiation and implementation of 3-year operational research, trying to facilitate a more targeted and culturally appropriate climate and reproductive health programs in 2 districts in Central Sulawesi. As I have mentioned, affected significantly by both the tectonic disasters and followed by the series of disasters that related to climate crisis. Yeah, one important findings from this particular study is the gendered nature of the study. Women in particular, and again, women with disability and elderly women as well, are more prone to various forms of sexual and reproductive right issues, including for the younger study population, poor menstrual health due to water scarcity, but a more systemic and more hidden issues such as sexually transmitted infection, sexual and gender-based violence, and various mental health related issues also emerge in this study. Yeah, another factor that also need to be addressed in this study is the increasing women migrations because of the series of disasters in Central Sulawesi. Central Sulawesi start to follow the pattern of West Nusa Tenggara in East Nusa Tenggara in forcing female migration within the province, as well as to neighboring countries like Singapore or Hong Kong, for examples, who are mostly accommodated more feminine-based occupations or tenaga kerja perempuan, tenaga kerja more manual and low-skill workers. Central Sulawesi was not part of those provinces in the past, but because of the series of disaster, we start to see some pattern as we have seen for longer time in East Nusa Tenggara and West Nusa Tenggara. Yeah, and one also study which is at the preparatory level at the moment is a Partnership for Australia Indonesia Research Sulawesi, that also facilitating studies in 3 clusters, including climate change and health, and another cluster is net zero and energy transition in health facility, and also circular economy solution in seaweed industry. And this is in the context of coastal community in 6 provinces in Sulawesi, involving several Indonesian universities, co-led by Hasanuddin University with other universities in Indonesia and Australian-based university. And the last slide that I will try to convey in this presentation, we also facilitated by the study funder and also the study team to summarize some lessons that we found from those studies. And among those things, I think it is very important to see the intersection of climate crisis and health, not merely as a climate and health issues, but also a social justice issues, because of different form of vulnerability that we can see emerge from two studies that we have conducted. And the value of interdisciplinary approach to better understand this complex phenomena, we need, of course, data and expertise related to climate science, health science, social science, data science, among others. And also the cross-fertilization of inter-country and also inter-institution team, including intergenerational team. In both studies, we facilitated the involvement of the affected community. So some persons living with disability, for example, participate not just as a study participant, but also as a researcher in this study, and also the involvement of young people as a researcher. For example, as I have mentioned in the Photo Voice project in Central Sulawesi, they provide a lived experience. They're the one who experience the impact of climate disasters on daily basis, and also they provide a fresh needed insights. And one important development in public health science, the emergence of the more intersectional approach. We call it syndemic approach. We increasingly start to view health issues not in a social vacuum, but in the intersection between biology and geology, social condition, economic condition, and also people's behavior. In the Lancet's edition that I mentioned, the advocacy to employ a more intersectional, interdisciplinary approach, such as syndemic approach, is increasing. Yeah, and the last one is because of the importance of this region that we discussed previously, the Wallacea region. Hasanuddin University last year established Wallacea Research Institute. Before traveling to Ternate and finalize the famous letter from Ternate to Charles Darwin, Alfred Wallace stayed in Makassar and in Maros Regency for a significant amount of time before traveling to Moluccas Islands. That's why historically Hasanuddin University decided to formalize this new research institute. And climate crisis, climate disasters, and health and well-being in the region, of course, are the prioritized area of the new institutes that encourage us, motivate us to seek collaboration and partnership with other institutions, including in Australia, and of course with, for example, the Australian National University here. Thank you. And you
can just stand there because you did answer questions. Thank you so much, Sudi, for sharing your work that synthesizes your recent and ongoing project. And I'm sure there will be a lot of questions from the audience, both on the overall approach, but also probably on the each of the studies. And we probably have also questions online. And so I'm going to start with taking 3 questions here in person. Anyone, please? Probably, yeah. And yeah, please, let's put it.
So yes, thank you for the presentation. So the first is a comment on the term of climate crisis. I don't know how established the term is, but it seemed to me blaming climate for the crisis is not appropriate. Yeah, because that is same as when we try to eliminate the term natural disaster. Blaming natural event for disaster is probably not appropriate. Second issue is more on the approach to look at your approach from the presentation that I learned on linking climate toward health. It seemed to me, if you look at the diagram that you showed, it's too general, and then there are several links that we're not sure that climate is the main issue. So, for example, your link from climate to air pollution and health related to air pollution. Climate is probably a small thing on those activities. Air pollution mostly in Indonesia, particularly the one that's creating a health problem, are in urban area, and it is due to combustion.
Yeah.
And combustion is not CO2, the one that, so it's the toxic part of combustion, and CO2 is not toxic. So if your approach to link is too general, then we don't know how significant actually climate that actually affecting health. I just thought that you might want to be more focused on how exactly the link between climate and health, and also on the issue of resilience that you presented. Is a resilient toward climate, but not related to. I feel difficult to understand that this is resilient to reduce the health impact. So I thought that if this Wallacea Research Institute would like to develop, be more precise on how exactly climate change affecting health, not too general, but more precise, and in the resilient or the adaptation is more precise on the adaptation toward reducing the health effect, not just the overall climate change.
Okay, I like Mas Budi to answer Mas Budi first, and then I go to the next question, please.
Thank you, Pak Budi. And the first issue in relation to terms, I think this is also a hot debate, whether to use climate change or climate crisis. In the Lancet edition that I mentioned, most climate scientists who work with health scientists prefer to use the term climate crisis. Of course, there are some limitation of the term. So the effort to find a more precise and appropriate term is also an ongoing development in this area. Language is important, as you have emphasized, to be more precise, and also to not just blaming the climate, for example, but also sometimes blaming the people or the place that we study. And we have seen the evolutions of terms that use either in other field or in particular field such as health. There are several terms that we used in the past that we no longer use because of the accumulation of evidence and better understanding of the particular issue, that also facilitate a better term that we use. There will be never a perfect term, but at least there are better one. And I think this is a new issue, and we are still in the embryological to use biomedical term to establish more precise term. And in relation to framework, yes, it is exactly one of the hot issues, particularly establishing a more rigorous, specific pathway to the change in the environment, the impact to the people, either through proximal and distance mechanisms. That's why in several research proposal call, including the one that I'm currently doing with several colleagues from Wellcome Trust. Wellcome Trust facilitate us to have a more specific mechanism between one particular aspect of climate crisis or climate disaster with one particular health or a group of health issues to better understand and to find new knowledge about the more specific mechanisms. Even though this kind of approach also without any risk, it is always very complex and very questionable to have a very direct mechanisms, especially if it is involving environment. It is very different compared to biomedical and clinical mechanism of disease, for example, in which more of the factors are in a controlled environment. For this kind of intersecting, and many of them are non-controlled factors, the way to find this more precise, more specific mechanism is also challenged by many researchers. But I think the two waves is important to facilitate a more precise research to better understand the specific mechanism, and also at the same time to see a broader picture, such as the one that facilitated by this syndemic approach, especially to translate the academic study into some operational research that we hope can contribute, even if it is limited to disaster mitigation and also to health mitigations. The mechanism that I have mentioned, not just related to vulnerability or susceptibility, but also to resilience. As Pak Budi mentioned, we are still lacking in understanding how resilience in environmental rehabilitation, for example, can have also positive impact to human health. Even though now increasing body of evidence within public health and urban health, for example, show the increasing importance of positive change in the environment that can facilitate a better result in human health outcomes.
Okay, so please, Suta.
Thank you.
See you again here.
Yeah, a lot of exciting research. So I have two questions. First question is very simple. Is Bali part of the Wallacea Research Institute? That's the first question. And then the second one is related to health system responses towards climate. As part of the Connexi project in Bali, Lombok, and Nusa Tenggara, looking at the capability of health system in mitigating the health impacts from climate change. Is that something that you're also looking at in Sulawesi region? Or are you mainly looking at the vulnerability and looking at
Okay. Yeah, I initially also asked the questions to our colleagues in geology, who, of course, have a better understanding and more direct relation to the categorizations of this region. Initially, I also assumed, because of the proximity to West Nusa Tenggara, Bali is part of the Wallacea region. But we found Bali is not part of this, because, as I have mentioned, the process of isolation, Bali was many thousand years ago, for example, was connected to Java and not experienced the same very long or prolonged isolations compared to Sulawesi, Maluku Islands, and Nusa Tenggara. That's why Bali, despite its geographical proximity to Nusa Tenggara, in this biogeographical terms, is not included in the regions. That's from what I found and learned from our geology colleagues working in this area. But of course, at health issues, we can find many similarities between people in Bali and people in West Nusa Tenggara and Sulawesi, for example. And in Central Sulawesi, we can see significant pockets of Bali people, for example. And you are very right in emphasizing the importance of health system. For this Connexi study, we focus on the vulnerability, but for Central Sulawesi study that I mentioned, because it is a basis for 3 years operational study, of course, we need to explore the role and the limitation of especially local health system in facilitating a better tailored and culturally appropriate sexual and reproductive health issues, sensitive health topics that need to be safeguarded by the readiness of the local health system. So another branch of the study is actually trying a quantitative study, trying to measure the existing knowledge capacity as well as limitation of the local health system in addressing the issues in terms of human resources, but also in terms of capabilities of institutional capabilities and technical capabilities of human resources working in the community health center and in the referral hospital. In the Per Sulawesi project, one branch of the study is a study focusing on health system in relation to climate and health issues.
Okay, thank you. So the next question will be in person from Pian. Please project your voice so the online audience can also hear your question. And then after that, we're going to move to online questions. Please.
Thank you for the presentation. My name is Pian. I'm from Krakow. On the link between the climate change and health outcome, do you think that change in consumption behavior also plays some significant role? For example, as the temperature gets higher, people tend to consume more like brown sugar iced coffee or rock sugar iced tea, things like that, and people get higher likelihood to be obese or higher other disease. And how do you think about this?
As I have mentioned earlier, I'm currently with colleagues in several institutions, both in Indonesia and some other institution outside Indonesia, working in developing a proposal for Welcome Trust, trying to focus on one climate related issues, which is heat, and how this will affect people's health. And yes, you mentioned one important possible linkage, how the heat and prolonged heat may change food and drink consumption. As perhaps you have seen some summary of the previous Indonesian basic health survey and the one that will come very soon, the sharp increase of overweight, obesity, and type 2 diabetes in Indonesia. And one interesting findings is the prevalence or the increased prevalence of this metabolic disease among younger age. Initially, we assume this diseases particular program affect those at the older age. Now we start to see, for example, one new studies case report published by my colleague from the School of Medicine, the increase of renal failure and hemodialysis among people under 30 in several hospitals to see some of this. And another example that also need to be emphasized, initially people tend to see this kind of health problem as urban and middle class problem. Another study that conducted by my colleague employing this systemic approach and spatial epidemiology, how the type 2 diabetes affect some remote areas in Molucas Island. So it is no longer urban middle class phenomenon. It is also a rural and issues for young people, youth health. And the possible link is, as you have mentioned, the sharp increase of and lack of supportive policy in relation to sugar consumption in Indonesia. But again, the more precise mechanism between this need further study to establish a more proximal causal relationship.
Thank you. Catherine, please.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with a question from Jackie Baker, who's over in Murdoch. She says, thank you for a great presentation, Park City. You say that governments need to support community resilience in the face of climate impacts. In your experience, what might that look like, particularly given the changing scale of climate impacts? Additionally, in the communities where you have worked, what kind of political structures and representative bodies would communities and governments need to have to make policy to support that resilience?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Bu Jackie, who is also involved in a Koneksi supported project that I mentioned, even though the study sites is not in Wallacea region. Yeah, I would like to provide one example of a gradual support from the city government to community initiative on community resilience, as I have mentioned in Lantebung. The case of Lantebung is initially an organic community movement that survived learning from another best practices of mangrove rehabilitation in South Sulawesi. One example of mangrove rehabilitation is relatively sustainable in Indonesia, in South Sulawesi, particularly is a case of a village in Sinjai. And the people in this Lantebung learn from the Tongke mangrove initiative in Sinjai. Sinjai is a district in South Sulawesi, around 5 hours from Makassar. And one local champion in this Lantebung developed and adapt this concept in mangrove rehabilitation. Initially got superficial support or even neglect from the city government, but because of the persistence of the movement and the increased media coverage, including the role of young people in the area through social media to show and to disseminate this community movement, they start to have support in mangrove rehabilitation, but also in strengthening other support, including local health facility. So, for example, 2 puskesmas adjacent close to the Lantebung mangrove rehabilitation, the village got a better support in serving this coastal community. This kind of evolving and interaction between community movement and the increasing enthusiasm of some key figures within the city government play a meaningful role in sustaining the initiative. And it is of course a good story, but the problem, it is not always easy to copy or to translate this particular case into other areas. Some community initiatives try to replicate this Lantebung experience in another area of the city, and not all of them can sustain. So I think studies in relation to community resilience in facing both climate crisis and also trying to solve some of the local health problems is also important. Why some sustain and develop, and why some of them fail or in a stagnant positions.
So the next online question's from Ross McLeod, and Ross asks, is there any objective evidence to show that climate change is causing more frequent and severe floods, droughts, extreme heat and extreme weather in the Wallacea region?
Yeah. I thank you, Rose, and I got the email from Catherine, and I'm currently identifying and also collecting some data in Indonesia and particularly in Wallacea region to respond to your questions. And one example of data sets that we can use to try to have a better linkage between the area is a set of data provided by Indonesian Bureau of Climate, Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics. I will send the links to you, and including some. This bureau have a national level, so that they collect the data on regular basis at the national level. But we also start to see a more sustainable and consistent province level and district city level of BMKG, who collect the data in relation to rain, to heat, to temperature each time. And those increasing availability of data can enable us to see a better association between particular climate related disasters with some health issues. And it is the aim of the current of the future study, including the study that I have mentioned that we are currently composing with the Wellcome Trust to establish those closer associations, employing a more particular measurement to establish and to locate some climate-related issues such as heat with some more precise, more specific health issues.
I'll give you an easy one now,
Yeah.
Which is, will this presentation be published as a paper, or has it already? Audience would love to read it and congrats on some amazing and important research.
Some part of the study reports, either from Koneksi supported project and also from IPAS project, have been presented in several conferences, relevant conferences, and also submitted in several relevant journals. We are now working in at least 2 articles already got response from reviewers, and we are currently working to respond to the reviewers' comments. And no less important than this academic publication, we also work to compose and to provide non-academic, more succinct and using plain language publication resulted from the study findings, such as publication in Indonesian mass media and also through social media. One section of the Koneksi study involved young people in disseminating the study findings through social media, through Instagram and TikTok, for example, that can reach wider audience beyond academia.
And then the next question is, did the research in Central Sulawesi also explain the water scarcity in some areas of Central Sulawesi before the climate crisis or natural disaster happened? Because as far as I know, there are some areas in Central Sulawesi that already have water scarcity before the climate change and natural disasters happened.
Water availability and water quality an important issue in some part of Wallacea region, including some part of Central Sulawesi, and also more visible in some areas in East Nusa Tenggara. Even before we more intensively discuss about climate crisis, many of these areas already experience water in security. And the current development because of disasters, and also because of the extractive economy that I mentioned, because of deforestation, for example, they in complex way facilitate flood, more frequent flood, for example, also affect the availability and the quality of water. And the study in Central Sulawesi provide additional evidence, additional publication that try to provide a linkage how disasters and water insecurity affect particular health issues such as sexual and reproductive health among particular members of a population in this particular area.
Okay, so now let's move back to in-person audience for questions. Anyone? Acho. Okay, let's hear from Acho.
Thanks, Sudi. I was interested in this term, women migration. How is it different from migration in this context?
Yeah. Central Sulawesi is geographically and culturally considered as cousin province from South Sulawesi, and we are both familiar with South Sulawesi, or for sure. In this area, it is more common and more culturally accepted for men to migrate. For example, people in South Sulawesi since centuries ago migrate to Malaysian peninsula or to the northern part of Australia, for example. And unlike many areas like as I have mentioned, East Nusa Tenggara, West Nusa Tenggara, or West Java, who are sources of the migration of female workers to Malaysia or to Hong Kong or to Middle East. Central Sulawesi and South Sulawesi and most provinces in Sulawesi are not recognized in this economic and workforce phenomenon. But since 2018, local agencies in Central Sulawesi noticed the increasingly common for women from this area to move either to other provinces or to other part of Central Sulawesi province, or to other province in Indonesia, or even to neighboring countries, because of the significant disturb to agricultural and also fisheries sector in Donggala and Sigi, for example. And there are, I think, the trend in the feminization of labor in some areas, including in neighboring countries, attract this movement. Yeah.
Please, Chris.
I haven't thought about these issues very much at all. But one thing that came to my mind was that climate disasters have two different time dimensions.
Yeah.
Got the immediate impact.
Yeah.
And that may be 6 months, or it could only be start just several days and weeks after a disaster.
Yeah.
And then there's the longer term effects, which can go over many years.
Yeah.
So I just wondered, does the research sort of differentiate clearly between those two dimensions of climate crisis and health in particular?
Yeah. It is a very important question, Pak Chris. Yeah, increasingly we in medicine and in public health domain, a new branch emerged, disaster-related medicine and disaster-related public health responses. And you are right, most of our attention and resources are allocated to the short-term, immediate impact of disaster, especially if it is a dramatic disaster like tsunami or liquefaction. They attract multiple intervention, multi-level intervention, international, national, or if it is declared as national emergency. We can see this massive movement of assistance from many different organizations to respond to the immediate one. And you are right, the mid-term and longer-term impact of disaster are the one that mostly neglected. When the attention decline over time, and also the endurance of assistance. Usually those related to injuries, for example, after the disaster got, of course, immediate attention. Emergency response usually for medical aspect usually prioritize surgery and also response in relation to immediate infections such as respiratory and digestive infections. But what about, for example, trauma related to the severe impact? Are there any sustained mental health services for people who experience severe trauma? In this kind of area, we are still lacking, including some areas not immediately and directly facilitated by the disaster. We mentioned, for example, the data from the study participants, but also from the local agencies in Central Sulawesi about the trend of increasing number of sexual and gender-based violence, not just aftermath the disasters, but over time after disasters. And our best quantitative study in relation to local system capacity to address this more hidden, more subtle consequences of the disasters are more lacking. So I think those areas are the area that also need to be strengthened, and local health system is important, particularly in integrating health system and also the climate environmental related agencies in these localities.
Okay. Can I ask one follow-up question to Pak Chris managing the question? So Pak Chris asked about the medium and long-term effects of disasters. Yeah. But I see that in the this literature, I also see people use the terms slow violence to explain damages that unfold slowly over time, not because of disasters. Yeah. As that, I mean, how established are those terms and also those line of research? And is it part of your research as well?
Yeah, as exploratory study, we only can provide big picture that may inform a more precise study, such as the one that we are now organizing to provide a baseline study. But the importance and the urgency of this longer term and more subtle consequences of disasters are now increasingly advocated by many researchers and by many health advocates, especially in the global south, including Indonesia. We can see the enthusiasm and the energy to participate in emergency response. For example, my university, Hasanuddin University, are among the most active in emergency response in disaster in eastern part of Indonesia. our rector, our vice chancellor at the time was a medical doctor, a surgeon who involved actively and passionately in emergency responses to disasters. But now we also start to see the importance to other branches of medicine and public health to tackle those more longer term impact, including the impact in relation to mental health.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to Catherine for an online question.
Yeah, the question is from Jim Riker. Jim asks, are there new key indicators emerging for developing an early warning systems for climate risk impacts for at-risk peoples, youth, women, elderly?
Yeah. Early warning system in relation to disasters start to become more available to areas prone to disasters such as Central Sulawesi. But a clear and specific map of vulnerability, for examples, those are the areas that we are now trying to facilitate to provide more available data in relation to several emerging health issues and also to several particular population. We need to have a better data available about the location, about the specific health problems faced by this particular population to enable us to provide more targeted and also culturally appropriate responses to this particular group.
And one more, if that's okay, from Novrida Masli. The question is, thank you for your presentation, Pak. As part of energy transition in mitigating climate change, Indonesia is gearing up to develop critical mineral mining, and we know Central Sulawesi is one of the richest in those minerals. Were any of the mining areas sampled in your research? What is your observation so far? Should the same framework be applied to this area?
Yeah, you are right about the increasing penetration of mining sector in some areas in Wallacea region, including the one that you mentioned, Central Sulawesi. And now we face some complex dilemma in relation to this area. It is important, according to local officials, in facilitating economic development, but we also start to see increasingly local protests among local population about the benefit of this sector, who are benefited by this, and many in the Central Sulawesi study, for example, the first phase of our data collection is our semi-structured interview and also focus group discussion with agencies and people working both in environmental, disaster and health agencies. And especially from these environmental agencies, we found and we collect several additional data in relation to the complexity and the dilemma facilitated by these mining industries and how this affect local people in parts of Central Sulawesi. The common pattern we also found in some study findings is Nusa Tenggara. I think those area, the intersection between these extractive economy activities and how this impact the local people is another interesting study that worthy for further exploration.
I have one more.
Yeah, anyone here? Okay, let's go to online first.
Yeah. So it's from Mas Davina Sayaza. The question is, thank you for the insightful presentation. One aspect that stands out is the potential role of behavioural science in addressing the complex challenges of the climate crisis and its impact on health. Given that long-term resilience often depends on changing behaviour at the community level, I'm curious, What baseline understanding or data is needed to effectively integrate behavioural science into solutions for the Wallacea region? How can we ensure that these interventions are tailored to local contexts and lead to sustained behavioural change?
Yeah, you are very right. Some very important aspect of this complex phenomenon is people behavior, and the role of behavioral sciences to better understand this intersectionality is highly important. Disasters usually not just disturb the physical environment, but also the social structure and social institutions. For example, another findings that we found in Central Sulawesi, the trend of more prevalent conflict after the combination of tectonic disasters and climate disasters in the form of the changing of land landscape. They facilitate land dispute. And this disturb the social capital and the social relations within the community. And the role of behavioral sciences to better understand this and also to find, as you have correctly mentioned, a more tailored, culturally tailored intervention is important. One factor that related to Acho's questions previously is the presence of some explanation from the study participants try to link the prevalence of gender-based violence among women by the level of unemployment among men post disasters. This I think also worthy for further explorations, how behaviors not just among the victims of the survivors of the gender and sexual based violence worthy for further exploration, but also the social and cultural background of the perpetrators, why this happened and what kind of socio-economic factors that possibly influence the violence during and post disasters.
Okay, thank you. So with that, and unfortunately we ran out of time. Great discussion, and if we have further questions, we can continue to discuss with Sudi here. And now let's give another round of applause to Sudi.